What if everything you thought you had to be was a lie? What if the blueprint you were handed by your parents, your culture, your entire upbringing wasn't meant for you at all? Imagine being told in high school that your dream wasn't valid and the thing that lit your soul on fire had no place in your future. That's exactly what happened to our guest today. And let me tell you, she's not just rewriting her story, she's taking the pen back. Thank you for joining us. I am Megan. I'm the host of the It's Your Story to Tell podcast. And in this space, we unravel the untold stories, challenge the narratives we were given, and discover what it's meant to step fully into who we were meant to be. I'm so thankful that Kathleen Ahern is willing to be here with me today. I know that her story is going to resonate with some of you. I know a lot of it does resonate with me, where we feel like we have to meet these expectations and we get into life and then we're like, wait, something doesn't feel right here. And Kathleen's going to walk us through her story and how she came back to becoming more of who she was created to be. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for being here with me. And I'll let you kick us off, just walking us through your journey and talking a little bit about how expectations led to an identity crisis.
Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to share my story. When I was little, I'm Filipino, and I grew up with my mother was a nurse, and my father was, I think at the time he was a bus driver, and the expectations were set high. And if anybody from an Asian household or a Spanish household knows, their parents really want the child to exceed their expectations, maybe even become greater than they were. And that's a lot of pressure. And growing up, there was always that example academic-wise. I cannot bring anything less than a 90, because that would mean I failed. And I thought that was normal. And I would get praise from my peers, praise from my teachers, and especially my parents, which I, as a child, I loved getting that, oh, you did so good, praise. When I brought home those 90s, 95s, 100s, it felt good. And as I grew older, I remember that I started exploring my own interests, and I would get into more creative things that's not maybe as concrete as like math or science or something like that. I wanted to be a writer in high school, and I thought to myself, I love reading, I love writing, I am going to be a writer when I grow up and go to college, maybe be an editor. And those were my dreams in high school. And then I remember we would go grocery shopping in Queens. If you're from the New York area, Queens is the place to go for your Asian grocery stores. There's a lot more out there now, but in the early 2000s, you would go to where the Asian grocery stores are. And we would go once a month, and it's a drive. So I lived in, where were we? Suffolk County in Long Island, and it would take maybe like an hour ride for us to get there. But I loved that time. I remember it fondly. On one particular trip, though, I remember telling my parents, oh, I want to go to college to be a writer and maybe do English or creative writing. And I distinctly remember one of them saying, no, you're going to be a nurse. And that, I got quiet. It was kind of, it was shocking. It was a little slap to the face, because here I am saying my hopes and dreams. And then I got shot down immediately. So in the Filipino community, you're either a nurse or a doctor or some kind of person in the medical field, or you're not. And there's a lot of expectations around being a nurse, being a Filipino nurse. Even when you go to the workplace, and I've told in my previous jobs that I'm Filipino, they would say, oh, well, you're going to be a great nurse, because all the Filipinos that I've worked with are great nurses. And, that was nice to hear. But again, more pressure. Like there's this imaginary bar that's already set for me that I don't know if I can reach. And what if I fail? What if I disappoint my family? Because throughout my life, it would get their recognition, I would get praise, I would get those positive emotions if I succeeded at something. But then if I failed, again, anything below a 90 was deplorable. I distinctly remember there was one, I think I had to have been like third grade. I was small. How old are you in third grade?
Like 8, I think?
9?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I failed the math test and I got like a 72 on a math test. And because I went to Catholic school, failing is anything below a 75. So Catholic school plus Asian plus Filipino is
lots of
it
expectations.
builds. So I got a 72 on this test, and I'm pretty sure my family has no idea. So sorry, Mom. I'm 9 years old, and I see I failed, and I'm freaking out. Now all of the tests, they need to be signed by a parent, right? And I'm like, I'm not bringing this home. I can't bring this home. She's gonna tell me she doesn't love me. She's gonna be so disappointed in me. Like, I can't bring this home and show her. So what I did was, now when you're 8, your mom's name is Mom, right?
Right.
It's not Megan. It's not Carol. It's Mom. So I wrote Mom on the test and I gave it to the teacher, and she just looked at me and she just set it aside. And then I went back to my seat. Yeah, I thought I was slick. I don't remember what happened after that, but I still think about that from time to time. And
that is so funny.
And again, I was 8. That was just normal for me. Like having that bar of doing spectacular was there. And again, I thought that was normal. And then when I was growing up in high school, in college, I realized that no, like people bring home these, or God forbid, like a 78, and they're fine. They're okay. They're still moving on and moving forward. So that was a big eye opener when I got into nursing school.
So you actually followed what your parents wanted you to do. So you went through nursing school. You are a nurse now. But tell me a little bit about the story of the kind of nurse you were going to be and how that led. I think you kind of classified it as almost like an identity crisis.
So it is about 2016-ish. And in my senior year, I did a research project on Dr. Jean Watson's Caring Moment, because she was such an inspiration to me throughout my whole nursing school career. I was getting set to submit that for Sigma at the international level. And I was thinking about, where am I going to go after graduation? What am I going to do? So I thought that I want to be a pediatric cardiac nurse practitioner. I'm going to start at the Cleveland Clinic, which is the number 2 hospital for cardiac in the country. And I am going to do great because my parents tell me I'm smart. My professors, they have faith in me, and I'm totally going to do it. So on a whim, on like 11:30 p.m. on a random like Thursday evening, as I'm studying for my boards, I sent an application to the Cleveland Clinic for one of their telemetry nurse residency programs. Now, this was in the before times and before COVID, and it was such a different time. Like I told my mother what well, first of all, I waited until they told me they wanted me. And
right?
then
You
I
don't want
told
to
my
tell
mother,
them and then let them down and feel like a failure to them.
I waited until I got the "we want to interview you." And again, this was in the before times of this virtual meeting does not happen. So I live in New York. I told my mother, I think maybe 2 weeks before, that, "Hi, Mom, I applied to this hospital. It's the number 2 hospital in the country. Don't worry. And it's in Ohio." So, and she looked at me and she said, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know. I saw that this is a successful place. I want to be a successful nurse, and they want to interview me." So she bought plane tickets, went to the interview. They showed me around. We scoped out some apartments. And can you believe there was a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, you get a living room, a fireplace, a hallway, dining room. I loved this apartment. And it was $759 a month.
I'm guessing that's a little different than New York prices.
Absolutely. That apartment here would probably be about maybe $2,500 easy. Easy. Anyway, so we scoped out apartments and then we went home and then we waited and waited. And then I got the call that they wanted me. And we're like, oh, great. This is great. This is amazing. When can you start? So in November of 2016, between August 2016 and November 2016, I slowly bought stuff to move into my new apartment, signed a lease. And because I had no idea how leases work, I didn't have any credit. My mother was the co-signer. And around Thanksgiving, I moved. It was a couple days before Thanksgiving in 2016. I moved there and got settled. And then I went for orientation. And then a few weeks passed by and I wasn't getting it. I didn't realize it at the time, but my body was just like, no, this is not right. But my mind would argue with me. What do you mean? Like, this is what you wanted. Like, you're here, you made it. What's going on?
They accepted you.
Yeah. And as I was failing in my orientation, it just became clearer and clearer that like, this is not for me. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And since then, it's been unlearning first it's where did these expectations come from? So I sat down, I had a lot of time to myself. So I reflected, I turned inward, and where did these expectations come from? Do you actually want to be in cardiac? Do you want to work with kids? Do you want to be a nurse practitioner? And none of the answers to those questions were heck yes. It was no. And now I know that if it's not 100% all in yes, it's a no. You could be 99% yes and still have that little 1% doubt, and it's still a no. So that was really tough for me. Again, I was 22. And I feel like my life is ruined. I asked to do this and I failed and now I'm stuck here. So I toughed it out for another year because I signed a lease. Didn't know what it meant to break a lease. So
did you stay on that unit or did you go work somewhere else or how did you?
I worked somewhere else. Again, this was my first job. I had no idea how to do anything. So they gave me the choice of being terminated or I would resign. And I don't remember what I did. So I don't remember what I did, but in any case, I found another job because I couldn't just be 3 months, thousands of dollars later, Mom, I want to come home. So I toughed it out. I worked in a rehab / dementia unit / long-term care place. It's pretty big. And then there, I also learned how tough our healthcare system is and still wrestling with the validity of being a nurse because in school, they prepare you to be a acute care hospital nurse. And again, that's what you think you're going to be. But and I'm sure you know, and other nurses know, there's a nurse is a nurse is a nurse, no matter where you work. You don't have to stay in acute care. Like me working at the rehab, I'm still a nurse. When I came home later that year, I worked with people with developmental disabilities in the school setting, in the private duty setting, in the group home setting. I was still a nurse. And now I am doing case management as my day job. I'm still a nurse. And it took me a very long time to mourn, to grieve that the expectation that I got set up with from my parents, from the schooling I've had, from my career choice in general, the things that it's not for me, but what I do now is still valid. It's still it's still nursing, and it's okay. And just this whole discovering of what I am drawn to, it started, what do I not want to do? And then it turned into, where are my strengths? Like when I switched to case management a few years ago, I was good at phone calls. I was good at documenting. Look, there's a specialty there for me. So there's a specialty for any kind of person. And now I feel like I'm in that in-between period where what brings me joy. And that was a question that I never was asked when I was younger. It's a question that I now have to ask myself. And I ask myself, my word for 2025 actually is joy. So I'm trying to be intentional, but it's now what brings me joy in my career path, or what do I want to do? What in my personal life, professional life, my relationships, what brings me joy? And it's been a long time. It's been, what, I can count for, it's been a while. It's been a while. Big 9 years, coming up on 9 years. Wow, that's weird. That's so weird. Yeah, it's been a journey. Absolutely. But I feel like there's still room to grow, and I can go anywhere I want. I just need to do it, commit to it. And it's still experimenting of what works for me, what doesn't work for me. Maybe I can tweak it a little bit. And it's less of listening to what would my parents think? What would my Filipino community think? What would, anybody else think? What do I think? That's more where I'm trending towards, of what do I think? What brings me joy? Where do I want to be? Because I'm driving because I'm driving. So I need to figure out where I want to go.
I love that. And I love that how you're sharing, you didn't just walk away from the career as a nurse, but you are honoring like the parts that work for you and accepting that I can do something different with this. It doesn't have to be what I thought. And that I know, our culture and our families drive our expectations. And then we start thinking and aligning with those expectations. And that does create a lack of joy for sure, because you're not living in alignment. And I am just amazed at how you walked us through kind of how you're reclaiming those parts of you that were buried under your parents' expectations and that cultural expectation, and how you continue to evolve. Like, this is a journey, and so as you learn more and you grow, you move into that next stage. And that's what we're going to talk about in this next part with you, in part 2, where you have found alignment as a nurse coach and how that fits with your values. You're being able to incorporate your love for words that you had expressed as that little girl in the car talking about what you wanted to be, and you're taking that back. And so thank you for that inspiration. For anyone who's listening that's just struggling and this story resonates with you, I just want to encourage you to be brave and start asking yourself those questions like, what brings me joy? And discover what feels good for you. And when you can start looking at who you are, what you love, your life becomes so much more enjoyable. So thank you for sharing that with us, Kathleen. If this resonated, would you please share this and follow us so that you don't miss an episode? Thank you for being here, and we'll see you in part 2.